here we have the ATI video card. This is the ATI 8500 64 megabyte card. I sold a lot of these back in the day. One unique selling feature of this was this one here, the ATI Rage Theater chip, and this basically allowed for very high quality DVD playback. One of the big selling advantages of the ATI video cards prior to the Radeon range of graphics cards, which started with the 7000, was that it did very good sort of video rendering, whereas nVidia tended to have better graphics for 3D and better support in the 3D end of things with the drivers. But as the drivers mature with ATI, they tend to get better along the way. Personally, I've been an ATI fanboy, as the man says, from the get-go. I have my first sort of incarnation with ATI, and I'll be blunt with you, will be the ATI Mac 32. I also have the ATI Mac 64. I have various PCI versions of those cards, and then we go to the AGP version, which is this one here. This is my first into the foray of the Radeon graphics cards. This will be it here. This is the actual test one we were using. So this product here will allow you to test the power supply without having to learn how to use a multimeter. I'm going to show you that now. Okay, the first thing you want to do is take out the cable for the motherboard and take out the auxiliary 12 volts motherboard. Don't leave either of these plugged in when you're testing with one of these, because the power can still come through on this and it may damage the actual motherboard. It's probably not going to, but it's still worth taking it out. So and then this one goes in the bottom here. So I'll make sure I get it in the right section. It's probably wrong there. It'll only win one way, so don't try to force it. It's now glowing blue, which means that it's functioning. It's probably very hard to see that. I can now turn it on. You cannot see them for love nor money. There you are there, that's it. So you can see there all the voltage is reading correctly. I can cycle through. So this is the CPU now. Again, that's reading pretty good, no problems there. So we now know that that power supply is in good nick, and it probably is. But I still suspect maybe the power supply isn't outputting enough power for the actual machine itself, and that could be causing this failure. I don't know, but I kind of suspect it might be. I think this is the original Dell power supply as well, so it may be underpowered for this particular motherboard. So what I've done here is I have just literally brought the machine into the BIOS, because it's still telling me that there's a fault with the checksum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually plumb in the time and date, and then I'm going to turn the computer off, turn it back on again, see if it holds on to that memory. If it doesn't, we're going to start off by changing out that battery, as we mentioned, and then to the same thing again. We see we have the same fault. Well, when we turned it off and back on again, it had remembered what was going on, but as you can see down here, it's now saying there's a disk boot failure. So it could be a loose cable, so we're going to just check and see if there's a loose cable in the computer, or is it something else giving us trouble. So what we've done so far is I've taken out the old battery and put a new one in. So we're going to see now if it doesn't have amnesia when I turn it back on and remember the date and time. So that's what we're going to find out now. So I'm not going to look at the screen. I'm going to look at the screen, but I'll let you know if it comes up or not. Okay, so we've got the WinFast smash screen. That's gone. And amnesia's gone. So there you are. It's actually a faulty battery that's given us this checksum failure. Now it's just telling me that it needs to boot from CD, no CD in the drive, and disk boot failure. Insert system disk and press enter. Now you may notice that we have a hard drive sitting on the outside, so there might be some fault with that other hard drive is actually making weird noises now, so we're going to see what's going to happen now. So it's just verifying DMI pool data. And this is one of the glitches it was doing. It was just sitting there forever and a day doing nothing. So that's originally why I suspected maybe there was a fault with the hard drive. But when I changed the hard drive out, it's now saying system disk failure or insert boot disk. Okay, so I've downloaded a little bit of software from Rufus or UFUS and basically ran the program. And with that, it allows you to install FreeDos onto a USB stick. I managed to find the WinFast BIOS, I think. I'm going to give it a lash anyway, and that was on help drivers, this one here. So I just picked the top one and I downloaded it. So I have that here. So I then got that, and I transferred these into the bare USB stick. So in other words, onto the root directory of the USB stick after I ran Rufus. So that's what we have at the minute. Okay, that's kind of the best I can get it because of the time of day it is. So I'm going to do a DIO here, and we have the AWD flash in here. So we're going to type that in, wdflash.exe. Then type in the file name of the flash, which is 4A8W1P40.bin. See, at the moment what's happening is I can't boot. The hard drive won't let me boot. It won't let me boot on the CD. The only thing it seems to let me boot from is the USB stick, which is very interesting. I can't install or boot from anything else. It just won't let me. One of the things I noticed was I was trying to install Windows Vista on it, and it was going very, very slow. I then took that off and started doing Windows XP, which was installing very, very slow. So that was one fault that I found. Now, see here what it says, do you want to save this BIOS? Yes is the answer. Always save the old BIOS. So file name the program and save the current BIOS as, generally you'll do something like that. You can change the name later on, so go 4A8W1P40.old. Okay? And that's that backed up. Checksum is okay. So yes, the program. This won't go ahead if it doesn't think or doesn't believe that the chipset. So in other words, the flash itself has a number on it. Let's say the number is B5ABH. If that doesn't match the checksum within the bin file, generally it won't let you flash. It'll just say, no, this isn't compatible. So usually you'll be pretty safe to go ahead and flash. One of the things you must remember when you're doing any flashing on BIOSes is the following. Don't turn off the computer until the flash is complete. So we're now going to press yes the program. Warning, don't turn off the power or reset the system. See the bottom? It's now writing this new flash. This is it now. So hopefully this will solve our problem. I don't know whether it will, but as I said, it was our last chance really. It could just be a glitch in the actual flash and just needs to be updated. Okay. Flash RAM, root black is write protected. Flashing complete. F1 to continue. So we'll do that now. And we'll see what happens. Well, the flash was successful. Because we're still here in the... the time has actually been saved still. We're still here in the CMOS or BIOS. And everything is there still, so that's good. You can actually overclock this board as well, look. Not that I recommend that, but you can do it. And everything there is good. You can tweak these along the way if you wish. Increase this if you've got more RAM. So increase it to 256 if you have more RAM, why not? AGP 3X speed, automatic. Leave that to auto. If you know that the graphics card is a 4 or an 8, it's worth changing it. Again, most of these things leave to automatic and change them only if you want to see if you get more performance out of your PC. A lot of the stuff that's set automatically, the machine will handle it and your machine will be a lot more stable. But if you're trying to get the best out of the machine or trying to push it to limits, it's worthwhile playing around with those settings. So one of the things in here that you're going to see is the shutdown temperature. A lot of times I would have that enabled. It came in handy a few times for me. So I now have it enabled. So if the CPU temperature gets too hot, it'll turn off before it goes kaboom. Okay, so I'm now going to turn the machine back on and see if the computer boots up on from the disk. So I'll let you know if it does. I'll go back to the monitor then if it does do that. And we'll know. Well, don't need to go back to the monitor. If it turns on, that's all we need to see. Then we have a success. So let's see what happens. Okay, everything's running in there. There's no strange or horrific noises. Verifying DMI pool data. Boot from CD. It's now trying to run the CD. And does it hang again? It is still hanging on that same spot. So we haven't solved the problem by updating the BIOS. We haven't solved the problem by changing the power supply. We haven't solved the problem by changing the graphics card. We have not solved the problem by changing the hard drive. We have not solved the problem by changing the hard drive cables. We have not solved the problem by changing the system battery. Did I mention that? I don't think so. Okay, so what I've done here is literally taken the motherboard out of the case in case of some sort of point of contact that was causing the problem, and still it just hangs. I got the screen back, mind you, but it's still hanging. It's not booting at all. It just sits there and does absolutely nothing. So there's something else we're missing, but where it is another mystery. There's something on this board that's not happy. Okay, so just to make sure that it's not a fault on the ATA end of things, I've basically installed a SATA hard drive and a SATA optical drive, and still the same problem exists. What's happening now is the machine will turn on, it'll detect the hard drive and CD-ROM drive, it'll then get to the next screen and just hang. It won't go any further. Okay, this computer is now dead and buried. The computer has just got a blank screen now at this stage. It's just refusing to do anything. So I changed the power supply and I put the SATA cable in, and yeah, it's dead. So it's goodbye motherboard, off the recycle bin, and thanks for listening. So yeah, I'll take the CPU off this board and stuff like that, but this board is cabbaged.